Hey, it's Erin. I'm here at Tallgrass Film Festival in Wichita, Kansas, and I'm speaking with Valerie, who is the director on a film called A Light Beneath Their Feet. How are you today?
I'm great, Erin. So nice to meet you.
It's
Thanks for
nice to
having
meet you.
us.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for coming on. The Light Beneath Their Feet is the gala special event tonight.
That's right. Yes, we're honored to be filling that role at the festival this year.
That's pretty impressive. Okay, so what is the film about? Can you give us just a little bit of information without giving too much away?
Sure, sure. So the film is a coming of age story about a young woman played by Madison Davenport, who's a phenomenally talented young actress who is about to go off to college. But it's very complicated by the fact that she's basically the primary only caretaker for her mom, played by Taryn Manning, who is incredible in this film. You probably know her from Orange is the New Black and Hustle and Flow and 8 Mile, among many others. And Taryn's character has bipolar disorder. And so she's struggling with the question of whether to stay on her medications or not. And the daughter feels tremendous pressure to take care of her mom, but really would like to be able to go across country. It's set in Chicago. Go across country to college to Los Angeles, UCLA, where it's sunny and warm and predictable every day, unlike her experience at home.
So, what made you decide to want to tackle this issue of mental illness, which is definitely something that's not in the spotlight in modern American culture?
So the reason we chose, or I chose to do this script, I read the script. It's written by an amazing writer named Moira McMahon-Leeper, and I really responded to the humor and the warmth and the importance of the story. While I don't have a direct connection to someone mentally ill in my own life, I really responded to the mother-daughter relationship in the film and how caring it is, but also how fraught it is with the struggle for independence versus dependence in this relationship. And I really wanted to do this film justice and come at it sensitively, not only to bipolar disorder, but also honoring the mother's point of view and the daughter's point of view, because I think that's very important. We can't just look at it from one side.
So it's really interesting that you're taking the take from so many different perspectives because it seems like modern media, we look at someone as if they're either a survivor or a hero or the victim of a circumstance, and it sounds like you're being very holistic in your take.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with you. And I think what we're looking at is not necessarily the individual characters, but the bond between them. And maybe it's because I used to be a scientist who dealt with molecular structure, and the
That's
bond is what's
incredible.
really interesting to me. And how that bond is shared. Is it equally shared? Is it a covalent bond or an ionic bond or whatever? I could geek out for your
Right.
audience if you want me to. But I think that's really what attracted me to it is that there's an issue here for sure, but if you really dissect the movie thematically, it's so simple. The question the movie's asking is it okay to leave someone you love? And that is not just about mental illness. It's about two people developing in different directions. It's about outgrowing a relationship. It's about a familial obligation. And so I find this movie to be very universal, besides the specific case of dealing with mental illness.
It's very nice perspective because when you look at the world, we have a world full of people who are not just men or just women dealing with certain issues. And so, no matter what the issue is, no matter what the disability, no matter what the different mindset is, no matter what the mental illness, it's nice to see this addressed in such a humanist way, so that everyone can enjoy it. Okay, so you were mentioning something about being a scientist. What do you mean by that?
So I did a PhD in biophysics at Harvard, at the medical school. I also did a
goodness.
master's in medical sciences at the medical school, so I got to learn anatomy and physiology and study everything a doctor studies in the first 2 years of medical school. And I loved it. It was a really special time in my life, and I think by nature I'm a very curious, truth-seeking, authentic person, and science was, I felt, we're living in a very unique time where we have tools to really look at molecular structure and atomic structure and get to the heart of things in science. And so I thought I couldn't go through my life without at least getting that knowledge. But I'm also curious about big picture questions that maybe are only tangentially related to biology. And so for me, after doing my PhD, it was a very hard decision, but I decided that I needed to be able to broaden the way that I could look at the world. And for me, filmmaking encapsulated that. I didn't felt like there's no boundaries for what I could study or ask, but I still approach all my projects with a scientific filter. Our first movie, Losing Control, which I think your audiences would really enjoy, is about a female scientist who wants proof that her boyfriend's the one, and they can see it on Hulu. But even in this movie, we did a lot of research on mental illness and bipolar, specifically reading memoirs, talking to the writers of these memoirs, and really, I went to medical conferences, research conferences for the Brain Behavior Research Foundation, where I'm hearing scientists talk about what they know at the molecular level and what they don't know. So it was important to me to be very thorough in my understanding so that I could bring as much of that to the screen as possible. And I think the way that it manifests itself on screen is I feel like I was very available and conversant for my actors on the subject, and that I had a very, I think, broad perspective about, a very non-judgmental perspective about mental illness, and a very firm understanding that we don't understand a lot about it. It's not like a disease like sickle cell anemia where there's one gene, one mutation, and one phenotype. It's a spectrum. On the spectrum, you have anxiety all the way to schizophrenia, and bipolar is somewhere in the middle. And we're basically describing behaviors, but we don't really know what causes them. And that's why some medication works for some people and not other people. And so I think being very aware of that and making a movie about this helps the movie feel not didactic or preachy, but really just here's a story, here's a slice of life about two people dealing with this. And in that way, I think it makes it feel very universal, I hope.
So it's very objective.
Yes, objective, but fluid too. It's hard to explain until you see it, but I think there's a real feeling and mood and vibe to it that, I don't know, I feel like the audience will feel very supported on their journey, in that it's a vessel for them to have a lot of points of view as they watch, and a lot of their own feelings as they watch, and that was really the goal, to let them have their own experience as they watched it. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to be in 14 film festivals around the country.
14
film festivals.
Is super
and in Canada
impressive
as well. Thank you.
That's wow.
Thank you. And so there's a small window, and I'm sure we'll have more festivals. We just premiered a week ago, so we're meeting with distributors now and planning our distribution strategy. So our hope is that, word of mouth and people's interest will help get this movie seen, because I can't say it enough how universal I believe this movie is, and teenagers will respond to it because of what Beth is going through. Parents will respond to it. Older people who are now needing the care of their children. It really has something for everyone. So I really hope it will be very widely available. And you can follow us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, A Light Beneath Their Feet, Twitter at A Light Beneath Their Feet, and Instagram we're at A Light Beneath. So we'll always update you for where you can see it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Project Nerd will be following your film's progress, and we will be happy to share that information when that is available for you.
Thank you.
So, again, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your festival here.
Thank you. I really appreciated this interview. It was such a great discussion with you. Thank you.